in '09. You went to Helmand. Do you want to talk about that first?
That was the first deployment after I broke my leg.
Okay.
So the funny thing is I deployed. I broke my leg May 6, 2008, and I deployed May 6, 2009.
That's crazy, man.
And like I said,
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like I said, I had not even done a PT test yet.
Wow.
I hadn't run. So I originally went ad bond with Tommy. We were out in Salerno, and one of our other JTACs, he was having some issues at home, and so he was going to stay back. So I went over and took his place over in Helmand, and so we were out there, and we were getting ready to kick off the Helmand offensive. And we were going to do that in coordination with the Marine Corps, which was absolutely phenomenal because it was essentially the Wild West.
Mm.
They had a bastion out there, and they hadn't really been doing much. It's more of like an occupying location. They weren't running like heavy missions or a lot of missions, if any missions at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's primarily a British facility or British location at the time before the Marines went in there and started taking over certain aspects of things as well. And so prior to the deployment, they had done some analytics, and they thought that it was going to be a GAF location. And so our primary method of infill was going to be ground assault force. Well, that was a poor assessment, to say the least. There was wadis out there so deep that you could not get the RGs or the strikers to get through these wadis and actually move to any generalized location in an expeditious manner whatsoever. So we ended up having to bum a lot of aircraft from Kandahar, which already had 2 platoons. And a lot of the missions, we did more mission planning on that deployment than anything, because we would submit all of our information for the mission planning, and they would just take it and give it to another platoon, and they would just hop on the birds there at Kandahar and go execute. And we would just go out to the Tombstone, the airfield, and sit QRF.
Jeez.
And we planned the whole damn thing. And we would do that like damn near every night. Like we set more QRF missions than we did anything.
Jeez.
And the thing is 90% of those missions, we planned it.
Yeah.
And we just hand it off to somebody else while they go to execute. I'm sure they did some tweaking and stuff like that, but nonetheless. So we were getting out occasionally. We weren't getting out as often as we wanted to. And you know how it is with leadership. When you have a platoon or an element that's not going out very often, they're going to find ways to try to get them employed.
Sure.
So as we're getting ready to kick off, we just kicked off the Helmand offensive. We had some, our favorite, right? HUMIT sourcing. And we were going to go after a specific objective, named objective. Yeah, it was all based on pattern of life. So we ended up going into a Marine cop out near Marja or something like that. I wish I knew exactly where. I don't have all the details anymore. But, man, we were out there a day prior, and I'm out there in 115-degree weather, running ISR sources and getting continue to run pattern of life, trying to update everything prior to the next night when we were going to infill. So we halved into this Marine cop and stayed there, taking fire throughout the day, running ISR plug, trying to just gen up all the information we could. That following night, we had the Marine Corps drive us out to our VDO spot. So we gaffed up and we had our VDO location. We all dismounted. This is a pre-planned operation.
Yeah.
And the thing that still to this day astounds me is, again, pre-planned. We should have everything should be in place.
Right.
Well, as soon as we hit VDO and we started to try to make communications and comms with the aircraft, nobody was there. Nobody was on station. And I remember specifically the first sergeant at the time, and he was just like, it takes a hell of a lot to kick a Ranger platoon off a target. He's like, let's press, even though we have no air assets.
Man.
Well, so what happened is like the AOD line had run out, and they hadn't allocated the AOD line for the next day's mission.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't have any assets allocated to us at that point in time.
Jeez.
So Now we just started like walking towards the objective. The first thing that checked on for the mission was a B1. And I remember because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this outside the fact that I know it has a sensor, so I can utilize that. But he checks on and he's like, I was like, hey, do you have an AO update? And he's like, Roger that, Rangers on the ground. And I'm like, okay, yes.
I
Do
know.
you have an area of operations update? Do you understand what's going on? He's like, Roger, Rangers on the ground. And I'm like, I know who I'm with, but do you know the concept of the operation that we are getting ready next? And anyway, so I had to work through all that, and I was just happy that I'll work with anybody, right? You show up, I'm gonna utilize you to the best of my ability.
Sure.
So I utilized his sensor, and then I think I ended up getting a manned ISR at some point in time. But we get to our objective, and we're split up. Like it's like I said, it's pre-planned, and we have several different locations, and we're not. We had essentially two different missions that we were going. We had BRP, the Battalion Recce Platoon, with us as well, and so we're basically set up in kind of like a perimeter, separated geographically in four different locations. Well, we're sitting there, and the sun's rising. It's daylight. We should not technically. Based on how we like to conduct operations, we don't like to be out in the daylight. However, the pattern of life and this mission kind of forces us to do so. And everybody's taking their helmets off and this, that, and the other. And I'm doing the same. I'm no different. We've been walking like all night to get to this location, and now we're sitting there. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, yeah, it's actually pretty nice out here. It's pretty. There's a little greenery. It's the early morning, like the whole day's ahead of you. That was one of the dumbest things you could ever possibly imagine because you're in Afghanistan. And next thing you know, like 3 of our 4 locations, we got hit into a complex ambush. And just my position alone was taking fire from, I think it was like 2 or 3 different locations. We had a sniper shooting at us. We had a guy within 15 feet. Like we were fighting on the other side of a road. And you know how you have the road, they have irrigation ditches on each side of the road. We're returning fire. I remember literally turning around, shots going off, that it's ringing, it's going right by their heads, right? That distinctive freaking sound that the around going by your head, the zings and the clicks, and everybody's trying to put their stupid helmet on because we all had our freaking helmets off, trying to wipe the sweat from our brow because we're super smart. And I remember just low crawling, and I'm calling in troops contact. And I'm telling the B1, I'm like, I need a quick reaction. I need some sort of a platform that I can engage with. I'm literally taking fire from 10, 15 feet away. I don't think I can engage this guy, but I know we're taking fire from more than one location. And I need a reactive fires platform on station immediately. And so he calls up and he does that. And we ended up at the same time, like we all hopped into this irrigation ditch, and we're returning fire with this guy on the other side of the road. Luckily, one of the NCOs there, man, he had multiple frags, and he was just chucking grenades. And eventually, we finally got him after like 3 or 4 frags. My sniper got counter sniped in the foot. And so he's shot in the foot. And so I know myself and the first sergeant popped out to provide cover fire. This guy shot in the foot. And I've never seen a guy shot in the foot run so damn fast to cover and conceal him. Like he popped out, like he'd never even been shot. Like he was in a race. And he got, as soon as he popped in, like he like dove into the irrigation ditch, and I was like, that's probably not good for you. Yeah. But nonetheless, he had a little bit more cover and concealment. And so I had the ground force commander at the time was trying to, he's like, hey, like I need fire on that guy immediately. I was like, and I specifically, and I try to be as respectful as possible. And obviously situations dictate how you talk and how you're trying to express certain things. But I looked at the XO and he was our ground force commander, phenomenal leader, by the way. But I looked at him and I was like, I have a B-1 fucking bomber. What the fuck do you want me to do? Like the only thing I could do is essentially like do a show of force.
Right.
And so that's essentially what I did. The B-1 was trying to convinced me to drop some bombs, off in the perimeter somewhere. I was like, that's not going to do us any good.
Yeah.
Not only that, but we are literally troops in contact in 4 separate locations. Everybody is spread to the 4 winds. I do not have an accurate assessment of where everybody is.
Exactly.
So there's no way, even if we're going to drop, like we're supposed to be here and you want me to drop way over here, I'm still not doing it because I have no idea what's going on. And so this guy comes in, he does a show of force, and of course he starts dropping flares. And he's dropping flares over one of the positions, and I was just like, well, that sucks. I should have probably told him not to. But nonetheless, it worked out. Like we ended up having to Alamo up, which means we took over a compound that was in close proximity to us. We went in, cleared the compound, and took it over. So we had a place to essentially establish like a headquarters in the field. And we still had several elements that were out. And I remember we started taking over this compound, and the XO and I are going over a plan. We're talking about we're starting to get aircraft on station because now we're troops in contact. Everybody knows what's going on. They're starting to force feed us things. And we're talking about when aircraft show up, how we're going to try to employ some aircraft and do certain things. And we had a door that was open to the compound, and a round came right through the XO standing right here, and I'm standing over here, and a round went right between us and hit the wall.
Jeez.
And we just pointed to that door and like shut that steel door over there, and got it closed up and sectioned off. And then we started putting people on the roof. Yeah, it's one of those things where you realize that you just took fire like in close proximity as you're low. So I always tell people that the initial contact that took place. In training, low crawling, that doesn't mean it's a way for the instructors to create pain for you. Well, in reality, it will save your life.
Sure.
And so that was the first time that I could ever recollect in my head that low crawling was actually an important thing for them. Because if it hadn't been for low crawling and literally head down sideways trying to drag it in the dirt, we probably wouldn't be here talking right now.
Jeez.
So that's how effective and close the fire was. The grass and everything, you can watch the grass just getting cut down around you, and you can't get low enough.
Right.
Like you're trying to get lower. And so, those are all things that you kind of, then, you have a round come in between you and another individual, and you're just like, oh, like interesting.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where everything favored the enemy at that point because it was daylight. So it's very hard for us to pinpoint who the enemy is unless we see them on the ground. So aircraft wasn't really doing a very good job for us, not because they didn't want to, just they didn't really have the capability to determine whether or not who was enemy and who wasn't.
Sure.
And so, we ended up, unfortunately, we had a couple other injuries on the mission. My platoon leader actually got shot through the shoulder, and then Ben Kopp, unfortunately, he was hit in the leg. And once we were able to, so Ben was still out. He was further out past the compound, the Alamo, and we had to try to get him back. And so one of the things that I tried to do, because I couldn't employ, like I did a preemptive 9-line at one point in time, and they wanted me to employ a 500-pound bomb in close proximity to one of our squads that was out there, but we didn't really know where the squad was, so I ended up doing an abort. And I explained to him during the AAR, the reason for the abort was like, hey, it was a preemptive 9-line. We were trying to get it off, but we couldn't get the information fast enough from the team that was forward, from the platoon, or not the platoon, but the squad.
Yeah. And
so you try to do certain things and it doesn't work out, so then you just roll up with the abort. Because I'm not going to do that. The last thing I wanted to do was essentially drop a bomb on my squad.
Right.
And so, the next thing that I could possibly do was try to get them and everybody else consolidated back to the Alamo. So what we did was we knew that they had some injuries and some wounded, and they were trying to drag them back, and they using the irrigation ditches and the water sources and stuff like that to provide cover and concealment and drag people through. And so as they got to this orchard that was kind of outside of the compound, there was an open area between that area and the compound. So what I wanted to do was I brought in the F-15s on a timed show of force. And so as soon as they came out in the open, the F-15 would do a show of force. And I swear to God, they were so low. I felt like I could just reach up and high five them,
Awesome.
looking at the pilot in the canopy as he's going by. It was phenomenal. It was just a really good execution of the show of force for what you were trying to do. It just worked out very well. Initially, I had to roll them back. They came in a little bit early, the ground force that was trying to bring the wounded out into the open and get them to the compound door to get them inside the compound was not ready. So I had to roll them about 30 seconds.
Okay.
And then they came back around, and it just worked out so well. And so once we got them in, we started doing triage. We started assessing the situation. And we realized that we were kind of like really in a position that didn't really benefit us. Like we didn't have, it's 115 degrees. It's hot. We're burning through batteries. We have everybody like scattered to the four winds. We're still trying to get everybody consolidated. We have multiple wounded. I go out there and, obviously I have my GRG, so I'm plotting everything. I'm getting a good medevac HLZ that's in close proximity just outside of the problem is it was a hot HLZ because we've been taking fire from this open field over here the whole time. And so I run out there and after I already passed up the grids. Fortunately for us, we had a dust off that was in flight already who intercepted the transmission. And we thought they would be a little bit longer. And I remember talking to the XO, and he's like, hey, they're not going to be here for another 10, 15 minutes. And I literally pointed over his shoulder. It was like something out of a movie. And I was like, they're right there. And as he turned around, they just fly right over us. And I ran out of the compound by myself with the VS-17 panel like I needed one or something like that. I could have probably just passed them the grid, freaking had them land, pull security, and freaking load them up. But no, I had to explain myself like an idiot. Ran out there and did all that and started pulling security. And as they landed, and they landed closer than I was anticipating to the compound, which was fantastic. And the Rangers doing what Rangers do. They freaking loaded those guys up, got them flushed out with a quickness, and really executed that entire thing extremely well. And so then we got back into the compound, and we're still trying to figure out what we're doing. So for the next several hours, we're trying to conserve battery life because we don't have any. We don't have the 160th not coming to pick us up.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the middle of the daylight, and we continued to fight through it for the next several hours until we coordinated with the Marine Corps, who dropped us off initially, to come out and pick us up and take us back. And it was just one of those things. I could talk about this mission for days because there's so much that was involved in it, so much that I'm not going to get to here. But I know that there's Ethan Brown has a book coming up, his volume 2. It should be, I think it's in a chapter in one of his books. And then there's also one of the snipers created a book as well. And I think it was Team Reaper, Nick Irving, which was the Ranger sniper on that mission. And I tell you, like, the one thing that bothers me from that, like, we always talk about PTSD, and we talk about, individuals having to struggle with certain things. I don't think for me, it's not about the combat, because I firmly believed in whatever I did, whatever life that I ended up taking when I was employing ordnance or whether I was shooting my personal weapon, etc. I always believed that I was doing it for the betterment of my team and the betterment of my country.